All right, today's lesson is CO9, converting metric units. So what we're doing is we're going to be going from the big units like the kilo down to the small units like the milli. So we can see here that the kilo means thousand, hecto means hundreds, deca means tens, meter means the ones, gram means ones, liter means ones. Then we go into the really small units, going into those decimal point units. So deci means tenths. So it's in the tenths place after that decimal point. Centi means hundredths, and milli means thousands. So these last three you need to remember are the smallest units. They're the ones that get broken into the really teeny tiny, the decimal points. These ones up here are the really big units where you're getting bigger, bigger, bigger. The meter, the gram, and the liter are our basic units. So that's where we start out at. When we go up to the kilo, the hecta, and the deca, it's when we get really big. So think a meter stick is like the size of a yardstick. So if we're going up to a kilometer, if you're running a kilometer race, that's like comparable to a mile. It's not quite the same as a mile, but it's big like a mile. So kilo is big like a mile. Meter is like the size of a yardstick, a meter stick. And then the decimeter would be tiny. It would be smaller than the meter. So to convert between metric units in decimal places apart, multiply or divide as follows. So if you're starting with our large unit, like a kilo, and you want to go down to a smaller unit, like the meter, you're going to multiply by 10 to whichever power you're at. So a kilo is the thousands, so you're going to multiply by 1,000. So when it says 10 to the nth, that means how many zeros are we putting on it? So we know kilo is 1,000, you're gonna multiply by the 1,000. If you're going from a small unit, like the gram, and you want to go to a big unit, like the kilogram, you're gonna go to the large unit, like the kilo, you're going to divide by that 1,000. So if you're at a small unit, let's say you have 2,000 grams, and we want to know how many kilograms that is. It's a lot of grams, but the kilogram is huge, so it's not going to be huge. The number would be small. So if there's 2,000 grams, you're dividing by that 1,000. So when we divide 2,000 divided by 1,000, you're just moving that decimal place over. So you're moving it over 1, 2, 3 spots because there were 3 zeros here. So 2,000 grams would be 2 kilograms. It's the same thing when we were multiplying it, going from that larger unit. Let's say we had 4 kilometers, and we want to go to just meters. We're multiplying it by that 1,000. So we're going to move that decimal point over. In 1,000, there are 3 zeros, so we move that decimal place over 3 places, and we fill in our zeros. So 4 kilometers becomes 4,000 meters. Let's do some more examples of this. In the 4 by 800 meter relay race, 4 teammates each run 800 meters. The total length of the race is 3,200 meters. How many kilometers long is the race? Well, we're going from 3,200 meters. So we're going from a lot of the little number to a big number. So remember, when we're going from the smaller unit of the meter to the larger unit of the kilometer, we need to divide. We know that kilo means 1,000. So we're dividing that 3,200 by 1,000. There are 3 zeros here, so we're going to move that decimal point 3 places. So our answer would be 3.2 kilometers. So that's all we're doing on here, is just doing those conversions, moving that decimal point. So 15 grams to milligrams. So when it's mg, it's milli. Remember, milli is the small. So here we're going from a larger to the smaller, so we want to multiply. So it's 15 times milli. Milli means 1,000. So we're going to multiply it by 1,000. We're going to move that decimal place over 3 spots. So we want those 3 zeros, and it becomes 15,000 milligrams. Here we have milliliters, which is small, and we want to go to the liter, which is larger. So now we're going to divide, because we're going from small to big. So it's 590 divided by 1,000. So this time we want our decimal point to go to the left to make it smaller. So 590 milliliters is 590 thousandths. We're into the decimal points now, because it's just a small part of that big liter are all of those small little milliliters. We have 6,800 meters. So we're going from small to large. So we're going to be dividing, because when we go from small to large, we divide. 6,800 divided by kilo is 1,000. So we're going to move that decimal place over 3 spots. Going from meter to millimeter, meter is larger, millimeter is smaller, so we multiply, because we're going from large to small units. So we need to put those zeros on at the end. This one is a centimeter. Centimeter is small, meter is large, so we want to go from small to large. We're going to divide. 830. Now centi means 100. So there's 2 zeros. So we're going to move that decimal point 2 places. So you always want to look what number you're dividing or multiplying by, how many zeros there are. That's how many decimal places you move. Keep in mind, if you are going to be moving your decimal to the left when you're dividing, move your decimal point to the right when you're multiplying. Let's do a few more. We have millimeters to centimeters. So when we go from a millimeter, we're going to a centimeter. Now I'm used to going from milli to the 1 to the millimeter. And normally we don't have to convert between the millimeter to the centimeter. That's going to be a tricky one. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not putting tricky ones on the test. So we don't need to be worried about these tricky ones. So this one is going to be harder, because this is 1,000 away and this is 100 away. So that converting gets to be a little bit harder. We're gonna skip that one right now. Let's go from kiloliters to a liter. Kilo is large. We're going to the small liter, so we're gonna multiply. Kilo is 1,000. So we have 9.25 times 1,000. We're gonna move it over 1, 2, 3, because there are 3 zeros, so we have to fill in a 0 in that empty space. So it's 9,250. Going from grams to kilograms, it's going from small to large, so we are going to divide. Kilo means 1,000, so we're dividing it by 1,000. So we're going to move that decimal place over 3 places. So really you're working on moving those decimals. Let's look at our next section. We need to decide if it is going to be less than, greater than, or equal to. So now it's not quite as even numbers as what we had. So let's look to see how we do this. If we have centimeters here and meters here, we want to be able to compare the same measurements. So we want to make sure that centimeters we compare to centimeters, or meters we compare to meters. So I'm going to look at this and say, to go from centimeters to meters, I'm going to go from small to big. So that 320 centimeters, centi means 100. So if I'm going from small to big, I'm going to divide by 100. So I'm going to move that decimal point over my 2 spots because there were 2 zeros. 320 centimeters is 3.2 meters. Now I can compare them because they are the same measurement. 3.2 I know is less than 4. So it's important that you convert one of the measurements to match the other measurement. It wouldn't matter which side we converted to, because if we were to convert meters to centimeters, that would be 4 times 100, which equals 400. And we know 400 is bigger than 320. So you get the same answer. Whichever number you convert, you're going to get the correct answer. So 0.2 kilograms and 184 grams. I'm going to turn my 0.2 into grams. So it's going from large to small, so that's dividing by 1,000. Sorry. That would be multiplying by 1,000. Going too quick for my own good. So 0.2 times 1,000, I'm going to move that decimal place over 3 spots. So that gives me 200 grams and 184 grams. So 200 I know is bigger than 184. So for number 7, I'm going to multiply from my kilo to turn it into just liters. I'm going to multiply by 1,000, moving that decimal point over 3 places. So that gives me 1,000 liters versus 1,400 liters. You're going to get bigger. Here we have grams to milligrams. So going from big down to little, we're going to multiply. Milli means 1,000. So I'm going to multiply it by 1, 2, 3 zeros. So that gives me 1,500. Wow. So 1,500 milligrams to 150 milligrams. That's a big difference there. So we get the idea of how to do this. And I see, I'm just looking ahead at number 10, I forgot to put the measurement in there. That should be a meter, 4.9 meters. So if you want to try to work on those to see if you're understanding them, it should be 4.9 meters. I'm going to stop here so we can have some time to do the work and you can ask me any questions that you want. So I'm going to stop our recording. I will be putting this recording on to the YouTube channel. So let me see.